What's the story?
Greetings.
Peace.
How's it going? First time caller, first time listener. I'm ringing in from Ireland.
Oh, wow. Nova Scotia, Irisha.
Huh? No, Ireland. I'm ringing from Ireland. So
that's it.
I don't know. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning here in Ireland, but I just had a quick listen, and I'm pretty interested in your decoding of words, which is something that I've been pretty interested in. I guess coming from the outside looking in at the US, I might have a bit of a different perspective. But it was interesting the way you're going on about the decoding of words. Just a quick question, and I'll continue on. Do you think the English language is a completely constructed language?
Say that one more time.
From what I've been reading, I think the English language in itself is a constructed language made for coding words. It's probably the only language on the planet really where you can get coding. And it's interesting enough, it's one of the only languages as well where it's a uniform language and there's no variations in sex on the language. As if you take, let's say, Arabic as a language, they make distinctions between male and female, and it's pretty funny that English in itself is a uniform language. There's no difference in male or female.
Right. Like in Spanish with O's and A's. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, actually, there's a good book. I don't know if anyone, maybe people would be interested in picking up. It's called The Book of Words and Their High Hidden Masonic Meaning. It's by Mr. Albert Pike, the Pope of Freemasonry.
Pike.
But Mr. Pike. But I think it's pretty interesting. You're going on about the movies and the culture. And speaking of an outsider and someone who's completely outside of the U.S., and I was in the U.S. myself, and the culture, the people over there are really, how would I say, like the things that happen in the U.S. it takes maybe a year or two to come across overseas, a bit more quicker in the United Kingdom. But for any other country, things that you take normally would take maybe a year or two before it becomes a norm with us. And when I was over there, I noticed a big culture shift that was coming into my country in Ireland. And it's very interesting how in the past maybe 20 years or so, the black culture has been pushed to the forefront, especially with the rap music and the culture, which I'm a fan of myself, but at the same time, it's kind of really brought in for this time. What's your views on that, if you don't mind me asking, guys?
Has it penetrated the culture of Ireland, are you saying?
Oh, it has, yeah. But what's your view on their use of their kind of Africanizing of the culture, especially nowadays? Have you any idea why that would be?
Why, and what, if I may ask, what aspects are you noticing that's coming into your culture? What exactly?
It's the dress, it's the style, it's the scene, it's the music. It's all having an impact, but it's very kind of not unfortunate, but it's interesting that they're using the African culture, I guess you could say, or American culture, but it's more directed from African Americans into the world culture now than, let's say, maybe 30 years ago it was rock or pop, and now it's the war kind of using Caucasians as the lead people, and now changing it again into more people of African descent, I guess you could say.
Well, at this time, America's biggest export is what we know, or what they will call black diamonds. And what they consider black diamonds is, the cultural elite. You know what I'm saying? And that cultural elite at this particular times happens to be hip-hop. And hip-hop is easily infused not only via the music, but also through the fashion. But, as hip-hoppers, we kind of having a trade-off because Kanye West was wearing kilts. I get tight jeans or baggy jeans, but now you got quote unquote African American boys over here in kilts, and now some of them are even wearing dresses. So,
the thing is, I'll tell you an interesting thing. The kilts, it's not even Scottish or Irish. It was brought in by a Malaysian group. The Moors actually brought it into Ireland and into Scotland, and there's still Moors in Ireland who are as white as they.
Buddy,
where the bombs at? What you doing, man?
On the show, the bomb.
Where the bombs at?
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know if I said it in wrong. Maybe it's my accent. I don't think I said any curse words.
No. The bomb is an exclamation point. It's an exclamation point based upon the statement you just made. That's all. You just said something real profound that we agreed with.
Well, that's interesting because there's Moors in Ireland, and I know plenty of Moors. It's obviously spelled different, but that's the thing in language. It's not the spelling that matters; it's the pronunciation of the word.
I was going to say, the infusion or the exchange of what you would consider African culture at this particular time, to us, speaks about a Moorish Renaissance. I didn't know if you would be able to understand what I was saying if I said that, but I do understand where you're coming from, but I don't see it as a positive. I see it as I don't mean in a bad way when I say negative, but when you take the word rap, it's a Masonic word. It's a wrap up of music. I mean, if you were to take, and there's a study that came out by the Spanish Institute where they took the music of the past 60 years and they figured out that the tonality and the range of music as regards to the expressions in the tones have decreased, and we're going into now kind of more dubstep, more dance scene, but it's specifically designed for the culture that we're in today. That's the way I see it happening, because you had rock, which is a Masonic word as well, and then you had before heavy metal, which is regards to Excalibur sword. They're all really Masonic words, and now I guess we're coming into the last of that, as I feel, and that's why they call it a rap, because it's
well, there's a difference between rap and hip hop. They have two different frequencies and two different energies about them, and in our mainstream culture, rap is definitely a force right now, because that's how the money is coming through. However, the origin and the foundation of it is definitely jazz and blues and other elements that gave birth to what is known as hip-hop. And hip-hop is the father, of what, how rap ended up becoming manifested, unfortunately, by it getting mixed with, by it forgetting, where it came from, by it forgetting how it got started, and getting further away from its origin, it became rap. But the hip-hop is what the Renaissance is going to be. It's probably starting off, in that age, because it has to be accepted, Once it's accepted, then the intelligent people, of the country are going to see the difference between what rap is and what hip-hop is. And I know once they hear hip-hop, once they hear what it's really about, and they understand that, it'll do something totally different.
That's a nice way of putting it. I didn't really see it in that perspective, so I really appreciate that.
Hey, man, we appreciate you calling in, man. It don't happen every day.
I think it might happen more often, guys. I think I'll have a listen in now and again, but I appreciate your time.
Tell people about the show.
I will, definitely. I like the way you put.
Yeah, we're going to be having a show pretty soon where we bring a gentleman back on named Peter Moon, who wrote a book called The Pyramids of Montauk, and he makes a very clear connection to the Moors and the Scots. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is, you find the word Scotland, it comes from the Latin of Scot, which means sea wanderer or stranger, and that meant Irish person, because the Irish people took over Scotland and Wales which were the original Gaelic clans, and that's why they call it Scotland, which actually just means Irish land. But the Irish people, the original Irish people, are actually, and this is very interesting, they're a very dark-featured people. They have dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin, and it's no coincidence. I don't know if people would be familiar with the word gypsy, but we have them in Ireland, and they're called travellers, and they'd be kind of the last actually real clan on Ireland, but they're very dark people. Now, people say these are from the Malaysians or from when the Moors invaded, but personally, I've been studying the links between Ireland and not so Africa, but nearly the Middle East, because there's a massive connection that no one has really brought forward yet. But even in the language, we have our own language, which is Gaelic. And I don't know if you're familiar with the language Urdu.
No.
Sorry, it's I think it's Pakistani. Maybe it's kind of similar to Arabic, but their counting system.
Yeah, the Turks speak Urdu.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, thank you. Their counting system is the same. Is very similar to our counting system. So for one, it's Ein Do Céad Trí Ceathair Cúig. That's Irish for 1 to whatever. It's very similar to them, but it's a fascinating topic. I guess it all is, but the one misconception I think people have, and I think that you have to really understand, is that this system, or however we ever want to perceive this system, has always been a control system, I guess you could say. And especially in Ireland, because there definitely was a Middle Eastern presence here at some point, because our language is the oldest European language in Europe. It doesn't come from the Latin, and it's very fascinating because there's lots of I don't know if you're familiar with the round towers, or if you see church towers. I'm sure you're well aware of that it's a phallic symbol. Like, I definitely know you're well aware of that. I don't have to ask you. But we have round towers over here, which are very even Middle Eastern in their design. And there's also an Egyptian princess buried down at the bottom of Ireland, which not many people know. But yeah, I guess I don't know what. Princess? Yeah, an Egyptian princess. The legend goes she brought the stone of Scone, which is also called Jacob's Pillar, into Ireland, which went up to Scotland, and that's now called the Stone of Destiny. Wow, and that's in Edinburgh. That's in Edinburgh Castle right now, so it's a sandstone. But and then when the Vikings invaded, they were a different breed of people. So Ireland's really a melting pot of. There's no real Irish people. People don't really know where they came from. That's why the original Irish people had Mac or O beside their name, because Mac meant son of, and O just means it's the symbol of the sun, which just means son of. But it's fascinating how people can get from one stretch of the world to the other, but still have the same connections.
Right. Are you familiar with the book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1 and 2?
I've heard of it. But at the same time, I feel that even the Britons, they were a Gaelic people before Rome invaded, and it's very interesting, and no one has ever told me this and ever explained it to me, and I don't know why. I can't find any answers, but the Gaelic language has been around before Latin, so it was the first one in. It's more Greek and more Arabic, similar than the Romance languages, but Ireland had a writing system, and they had books before the Romans arrived, and they reported this to Caesar himself, but no one has been able to show me the original writing of the Irish people. They say it was a kind of coded language, but they actually had original writing script, which people actually say it's nearly similar to Arabic, I guess you could say. So, but an interesting question I want to ask you is, what's your perception on the Moors themselves? Do you see them? I know there were some say a Muslim sect, but do you think there was still a higher sect above them, like there is in all religions?
You said, your last question, you said, do you think that they were what?
I said I know there was supposedly a Muslim sect, but do you think there was a higher religion over them? Because they're priests.
Well, you had your mystics, you had your priesthood, and things of that nature, who were apparently higher than the class of the warrior class or the scholastic class. You know, take on the Moors. We have a few shows in our archives that you can actually indulge in, and we have detailed takes on the Moors. We teach the history, or rather the mystery of the Moors on many of these shows. We speak of the Moorish Renaissance. We tie in a lot of the events of today, a lot of the phenomena that you see in culture and in society with the whole Moorish Renaissance and what the Moors did in Europe, and subsequently even what they did over in the Americas, which we call the Mexican.
Right. Noble Drew Ali also mentions, he said that when you look at the Celts, when you look at the Scottish, he was speaking to Moors here in America at this particular time. Well, he said in the early 1900s, but he said those are your brothers, more like your cousins. So there's a very clear connection in the book that he was speaking about ancient and modern Britons, and makes that case, and it speaks about what the Moors pretty much did in that area, like you said, prior to that area being invaded and quote-unquote whitewashed.
Well, see, the interesting thing I've read before, I think, was by John Milton. I think he was an economist in the 19th century. And this has always been said down through history, you can find it, that the people that had the most problem to confine or conform was the Irish people or people of Gaelic descent, the Native Americans, and the Africans, which is, so is there something in the blood? Because that's what he was alluding to. And even, I think Bertrand Russell, or Lord Bertrand Russell, even made the same statement about this. You can't really call it a Gaelic gene because it's in other cultures as well, especially in Native Americans as well, which probably were the last, I guess you could say, of the uncivilized, I guess you could put it. So what do you think it is? Do you think there's more to it? Do you think it's a spiritual thing, or is something in the genes, or is it something carried on through history? Do you think there's this force in a certain amount of people that carries on? Because I noticed it, and you'll find it here, especially in Ireland, or the Irish people, and I've noticed it especially down when I went to America. There's a connection between Irish and Scottish people and African American people, and I don't know. It's not. You can't even put it into words, because I know when Irish people went on famine boats over to America, they were sold on the same blocks as Africans were. And then you had in America, then you had signs outside of pubs and doors and hotels, which was no blacks, no Irish, and no dogs allowed. So there's definitely a connection there.
They pretty much went hard on the Irishmen, and there's a clear connection. And like we said, I think the roots of it can always be traced back to a Moorish connection. And that's something that we definitely looking forward to delve into a little bit more and bring the experts forth, because there are people that are a lot more versed in that history than us. But there is a clear connection, even in what you call quote-unquote hip-hop and the rap music. There's a connection with the House of Pain, with Everlast, and with the Alchemist, and there's other people that have, pretty much meshed inside of the culture very comfortably, because they could connect, they could correlate to quote-unquote, black folk or Moors over here. So, we
do you think it originates with the Moors? Is that where you think the connection is?
Like I said, I feel that there was Ursa civilization that occupied that landmass So we're talking about something that's within your bloodline. You know what I'm saying? It's something in the lineage that connects us, and we just have to investigate. If you look at the nature of what you would consider to be, you know, the Irishman's hair, you know, the reddish colored hair, you know, the thicker locks on his hair, you know, all of these things are indicative of being in the bloodline other than what you might look at when you think of an Anglo-Saxon, you know.
So, yes, because, and that's very true, and no one has really said that a typical Irish person doesn't have red hair. They're very dark people. And even in the old legends, it's still the same. And even the monuments as well, from like here in Egypt, we have Newgrange, we have many of these monolithic monuments, even older than Pyramids of Giza. Something similar to Stonehenge, but actually they're the real building. Stonehenge is only a stripped away version of what we have. But there's definitely something there, and it's very interesting that the Irish word for Ireland is Era, and Eri, or it's Era or Eri. Era in Greek is the eagle's nest. So
yeah, and you'll see a lot of connections as well to the Aries and the Mars Scorpio connection, and you know the Mars being red and the redhead, and all of these things come back. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to always trace back to something that pretty much came that way from Egypt, and there's Moors in between there somewhere in the mix. So the history is in your land, it's in your blood. You just got to dig a little bit deeper, and it's all going to come to the surface. But those are the times that we live in. You know what I'm saying? This information is coming forth. It's waking up in you. It's inclining you to call forward and ask these questions. And now because of that, someone is hearing it. They're going to go and dig a little bit deeper themselves, and people are going to bring forth answers, and that's how these things are going to happen in these particular days and times. So we definitely want to thank you for answering the call, you know what I'm saying, and putting those questions out there.
Well, I'll leave my email before I let you go, just in case anyone actually does like to contact me or has any questions, because people have plenty of questions but they have nowhere to go, and I found out with a lot of radio shows, not like this one. This is something very different, unfortunately. So is it okay if I could leave my email with the listeners of your show?
Please do.
Well, if anyone wants to email me or on anything regards to any Irish, anything Irish, I guess you could say, not drinking, but my email is dazmandaz@gmail.com, and that's DAZMANDAZ@gmail.com. And if anyone would like to email me, I'm usually a night owl, so I stay up all the time. So, look, thanks very much, guys, and I hope all the best for you this 2013. And I'll listen in again, definitely.
I appreciate it. Okay, we definitely thank you, and we want to give a top of our hat to everybody in Ireland as well.